You guys ready? You're not holding the mic, Greg. That's why I asked.
Okay.
Greg, you're gonna have to chew it a lot more. All right.
I can see you in your brain like, oh, fuck.
What did I get myself into?
Yeah.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to the
Hey,
pod.
this is
Hey,
Greg.
what's up? This is Greg. What's the name of the podcast again?
Oh, Greg, I hate you so much.
Stop pretending.
Oh, it definitely is a genuine question. All right. Hello.
Hold on. Greg, what's the name of our podcast?
Yeah, give us your best guess.
I feel like he would fake.
Before I
Oh,
fully...
it's I got it. Hey, everyone. Welcome to Juicing the Numbers.
You got it. I'm your host, Joshua Tracy,
And I'm Corwin and I.
and we have with us today two of our good friends. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
My name's Caroline.
Hey, I'm Greg.
Thanks, Greg. We have these two on the show today because they're both rugby players, and we thought it'd be fun to dig in a little bit to rugby. It's a
Well,
sport.
don't give me that much credit.
Former.
Former.
Yeah, but you also ref now. I mean,
Yeah, so that's more. There's a big difference between playing rugby and refereeing rugby. Us referees are a little bit nicer of human beings.
You know what's funny is when I'm playing, you pretend there's no difference between reffing and playing, but now there is, huh?
Greg, hold the microphone closer to your girlfriend's mouth when she's talking. Please acknowledge when she speaks.
I don't know if we can trust Greg with this.
See, look, even Josh is having it. For those at home who might not know, we only got 2 microphones going for this one today,
Yeah, this is very
We're gonna
indie of a recording here.
and we're gonna try our best. What do you think, Corwin?
All right, but anyway, they both are current or former rugby players, and we not often talk about rugby, so we thought it'd be fun to get some of their thoughts on the sport as in reference to other sports that we talk about, and the sport itself.
I just want to say, just so you don't think we're crazy and just laughing at nothing, when Greg asked that question, they both held the mics to my mouth because we are not being video recorded for this. So no one will ever see that.
Maybe that's the next step.
No, we talked about it, and I really don't want to have to look presentable
You don't
every
have to
time.
look. Who said he had to look presentable?
If we're gonna record with video, I have to
Who
look like
cares?
me
Why?
because I do.
Have you ever seen the Barstool guys? Those guys show up to sweatpants and t-shirts.
Sweatpants.
Yeah, but Greg, I'm better than them, and I know it.
Oh man! I hope they get a hold of this one. They would rip you a new one.
If someone that high profile listened to my show, I'd be pretty honored.
They don't give a shit about us.
Yeah, that's fair.
be
I met Big Cat once.
I know you told me, but Greg, can we start the show?
We were talking. All right.
How's
He's
Dan?
good. He's good.
Dan's good?
Yeah,
Nice.
he's fine.
Okay. So first, how did each of you guys get into rugby itself?
Well, I actually, funny story, freshman year of college, I actually went to American University freshman year. And
Down
I
in
was
D.C., right?
Yeah. I was walking through the dorm, and there was a flyer for it, and it was no experience necessary, and I was like, fuck, I got that. So I showed up, and it was just a bunch of weirdos and freaks, and I was like, yes, these are my people. So, and then it started from there. It was an addiction. Everywhere I bopped around Manhattan, here, I was like, I need a team. So
did they work you out and get a vibe of where you'd play? Was there a spring training kind of deal where they kind of figure everything out?
we had a rookie day, where there was a big incoming rookie class my year, and the fun thing about rugby, specifically on a club level, everyone who plays professional rugby is huge and jacked, but on a club level, each specific body type, you can tell what they'd be best at. So basically they just took one look at me, and at that point I was much heavier, and if anyone who knows rugby, they would appreciate, they looked at me and they're like, you're a prop, and I was like, all right, and it just started. I had no choice. They were like, you're gonna be a prop, and I was like, okay.
What's a prop?
Yeah, same question.
So
You're here because we know nothing.
I should have asked you that. I was like, what's your foundation knowledge here?
It's a position.
Okay. So very generally in rugby, there are forwards and backs, and stereotypically forwards are more brute force and backs are more speed with the ball. A prop is a forward position where in the scrum, where the two sides of the two teams go up against each other, the props right up front row. So that's like the biggest girls go in the front because you need the big hit like right away. So they looked at me and they're like, "You could be a prop." I was like, "Okay." I had no idea what that meant at the time. Now I'm a little insulted.
What position do you play now?
I actually play flank, which is still a forward position, but it's what's called a loose forward, which means like in the scrum, I'm not locked in. I'm not like part of that big hit. I'm actually just hanging on loosely on the side so I can like let go and run off. The flanks are like the in-between of the forwards and backs.
Okay.
So.
And Greg, what position were you?
I was a lock. And so, kind of like Caroline was saying, they knew that I was a tall dude, and
Really, they took one look at you and said, "He's tall." Yeah, wow. Real great evaluation. I'm glad they had a real combine for this.
But it's a very typical position for someone who's 6'5" to be playing. As Caroline said, when the props are in the front row, the prop hooker, and then the second row is 2 locks.
Oh, okay. So is it usually like a tall guy spot, or is it someone who's just good at like kind of moving the pile?
Yeah, it's you don't have like the short bulkiness type of person playing a lock because you kind of want a little bit of a stretch with your legs to really make that good impact coming in from the second row. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then since you were fixing yourself a beer while Caroline was answering,
I had to really mix it up, shake it up good, and throw it over rocks and put a cherry on top of it to make it really look nice.
For reference, Greg just has what looks like Miller Lite can in a koozie.
It is a Miller Lite can in a koozie. Great koozie.
Anyway, how did you get into rugby?
I met a friend of mine my freshman year named Patrick McGuire in college, and he's from Colorado. He played rugby growing up through high school, and he told me, "Oh, just come to their house party. Just come to the rugby house party. It's fine. Like, just tell them you're thinking about playing." And then,
I guess you showed up
and then I
immediately blacked out.
Yeah, and then there I was at practice.
Woke up on the field,
and there I was at practice the next day.
So you were also no experience had.
No
just
experience.
kind of showed up
No.
and fucking went with it.
We can curse on this fucking thing, right?
Yes, Greg.
Yeah, no fucking idea what I was doing.
So how long did it take each of you guys to like acclimate to like the play style and the positions and like is there much? I know there's positions, but is there much like scheming or like playmaking?
Caroline's ripping the mic out of my hand, so I'm gonna turn that one over to her.
I'm not ripping the mic out of your hand. I was just trying to gesture without saying anything that I have an answer. I just like to say that it's a common joke between rugby players that we still don't know the rules of the game. No one knows the rules. Greg, he'll try to explain some, reffing call to me, and I have no idea. I'm like, I don't know. I just do what I'm told. So, but you just, wake up one day and realize, you kind of figure out what you're doing. There's not a lot of, different plays. Like in football, you could have... I don't know anything about football.
The sport of American football was easily based off of the sport of rugby, but the big difference is, and I'm not just saying this because we are currently watching a basketball game as we record this, it's got the flow of a basketball game where it's not, you're not stopping all the time, so there's not always a minute to actually set up a draw play. So it's got that fun free-flowing atmosphere of basketball in that sense. Does that make sense, Caroline?
I would say it's more like soccer, but yeah, I guess.
But the same idea, it's got the same free-flowing like soccer does.
Yeah, you could start off, you're like, all right, guys, this is what we're going to do. And then 2 seconds later, you're just, oh shit, and you're doing something completely different. You just go where the game takes you.
I mean, I would say that's most sports. I think football has given, American football has given a weird definition to what the word play means because it's so structured. Because, when I started getting into hockey, a play in hockey isn't the same thing as a play in football where it's, super written out. Everyone knows their position and what their position needs to do to react to what is happening on the ice. But, there's no, super NFL-style scripted plays.
Can I make a bold statement?
No.
Corwin, can I make a bold statement?
No.
Give it 20 years, football will be phased out by then, and rugby will be its replacement.
We both said no, so we're going to cut that.
Yeah, we don't allow bad opinions in this show. I don't know if you've listened to it before, but
But
no
no,
bad
seriously,
opinions.
okay. No. Okay, now we're
Greg,
getting
don't
into
shout.
it.
Greg, don't shout.
You're getting me excited.
Probably doesn't take much.
Look. There's been so much political bullshit in American football. There's been way too much stoppage. The Super Bowl was miserable to watch, and we all know it. We don't have to go there. People are getting hurt left and right. Parents aren't letting their kids play American football anymore because it is dangerous with how many people are getting head traumas and head injuries and the whole 9 yards of that. It's going to phase out because people are going to realize how unsafe of a sport it is. And the NFL allowed that sport to become as dangerous as it is today by just not enforcing the rules. Coaches weren't teaching players how to properly tackle, where in rugby, your tackling form is so important that if you're not doing it right, you can be sitting out for the rest of the game because of a red card. People are taught how to tackle safely in rugby. It's gonna be the new sport in about 20 years, especially with this new MLR league that just started. These professional rugby teams in America are playing at minor league baseball stadiums. How cool is that? Like, that's nowhere that we thought we would have been.
No, I mean, I give you a lot of credit because I think that you're right that, like, rugby's going to get way more popular. Because, I mean, like, people... Remember when people would say, like, soccer ain't going to be shit in the U.S.? Now, you know, MLS is the fastest growing sport in the U.S., which will eventually slow down. It's the fastest growing because it had the farthest to go up. But I assume that rugby would have a similar rise at some point, and I think that is in part because the NFL did itself no favors in how it decided to grow and not deal with the fact that head injuries... I mean, they swept the head injuries thing under the rug for forever, and I think that's going to come back to bite them, and that rugby could very well...
Now we know too much, like all these medical discoveries, and now you're looking back at people who like played football years ago, and they're like getting scanned. They're like, wow, they're fucked, and their brains are just mush.
Yeah, they're not doing too hot. So, Greg, what is it like being now that you're a ref? What's it like looking at the game as a non-player?
It's very interesting. I think the one advantage that I had by getting into getting into refereeing as early as I did was the fact that I was still learning the sport. So I only started refereeing about a year and a half after playing, maybe 2 years after playing. So I still had such a fresh mind that I was able to shift my mind into a refereeing mindset a lot easier than somebody who might have played American football growing up and then decided after playing through high school and playing through college that they wanted to become a football referee.
When you watch rugby on TV, like American football, do you get upset at like certain penalties?
Yeah, I key into what the referees are doing when I watch it on TV, and I tend to help justify some of the calls that I've made in my time by... no, seriously, like...
I know, Greg, I'm not doubting you. It's
no,
just funny.
seriously, like, I was watching a game today, and I saw a referee give somebody a yellow card for an intentional knock-on, and it was a very similar play that I made the same exact call in a match that I was doing, and the coach even talked to me about it after the game, and I had my explanation, but being able to see somebody at a higher level on TV make literally the same exact call I did, it helps me. It helps shape myself as a rugby referee.
Have you ever thought about getting into coaching since you've kind of been looking at it from a third-party perspective already?
No, I'll go and I'll help out Caroline's club team that she plays on right now. And when I say help out, like I'll go run around with them and I'll run through the drills. And no, it's true. But like
it just sounds like something like, oh yeah, we went up for recess and I ran around with them. And, we played frisbee.
Played freeze tag.
I mean, that's not far off. We did play Sharks and Minnows last time Greg came to practice. So
Join your rugby team.
Corwin, you'd be good.
Currently recruiting for the men's and women's team. So
Corwin, you would be good. You're a tall kid.
I don't live here.
Yeah, I know.
Although their league is in Pennsylvania, just saying.
find your local rugby club.
We're in Pennsylvania.
She plays for Lehigh Valley, the Hooligans.
Why don't you guys give shout outs for your teams? You can promote whatever the fuck you want on this show.
I probably should, because we're looking lean. But yeah, I currently play for Lehigh Valley Hooligans in Bethlehem. It's part of the Eastern Pennsylvania Rugby Union. So we play against like Philly women, Lancaster, Phoenixville, Doylestown.
Those scary, scary Philly women.
Honestly, they're a little, you know, they're a D3 team, so they play against us. But I mean, they have a D3 team, but they also have a D1. And then when they come and play us and they throw in some D1 subs, and we're like, are you fucking kidding me? It's really infuriating, but yeah.
Are they bigger than the other teams?
There are some teams that like are notorious. Oh, South Jersey have some big girls. Big girls. I got knocked the fuck out one time by like a girl that was easily like 350 pounds.
Ooh. Shit. Damn.
But that's like the great thing about rugby, and especially when it comes to women's rugby that I've discussed with a lot of my friends, is it's really body positive. You know, like it's an arena, like a sports social circle for the first time that like big girls feel welcome. And like we're on the sidelines getting ready for games and we're just like ripping off our jerseys and we're all standing around sports bras, like rolls out. We don't give a shit. It's just,
I see why Greg plays with your team.
Fits right in. What cup size are you there, Greg?
I like to show off my sports bra too.
Stop wearing Caroline's clothes.
For the record, it is mine.
Greg, would you just sit with your girlfriend? Like, I can't stand the sound of this microphone keep going back and forth.
yeah, because it's the wire here, dude. Just sit.
You punk
Do you
bitch.
want me to sit up here so we can be?
Sorry, folks at home.
Yeah, girl, why don't you slide over a bit?
You know, he can edit that out. You don't have to get him apologize.
gonna edit any of this out? You're just gonna pop it on down.
I'm going to edit some of this out. No, this is actually going to get released tomorrow. So I do have to improv some editing. Like, I'm going to do it super quick, but
Plop it all down.
Okay,
that's not how it's going to happen.
then you're gonna have to be a little more succinct if you want him to do that.
Can we leave all of this in just to call out Greg?
No.
Yeah. No, come on. That'd
So-
be great.
So I do want to come back to some of the women in sports stuff a little bit later because I do have some questions on that. But I would like to ask, so if you were trying to convince someone, like you were recruiting someone to play rugby, like what would be some like your main selling points in addition to the things you just said, which are like more relatively, I guess, more women specific, although body positivity I think goes both ways. What are some other selling points you would give to somebody who's kind of maybe on the fence? You're trying to convince to join your team or a league.
This one? Can I take this one?
Well, you can both take this one, Greg.
All right, fine.
Just take the mic,
Is
Greg.
it a serious answer?
Yeah. No, it's for the
Greg,
so
you're
for those
the
who
oldest 6-year-old I know.
Also, for reference, these two are a couple. That might explain some things here.
The one thing that I really didn't. Okay, give me the headphones. Let's see how I hear.
Just
Give me
do
the
it,
damn
Greg.
headphones.
Greg.
I've never had this much fun recording with just Josh.
Hey, fuck you,
I'm telling you, just plop it all down on this
dude.
one.
Just talk.
The sense of community between everybody who plays rugby, who's involved with rugby, is something that I've never been a part of before. Like, we've done a tournament before in Harrisburg, and after the tournament, everybody camped out on the pitch, and we were all hanging out at night, drinking beer, having a good time, and it was just something I've never witnessed before. All these people who were competing at one point of the day, and then afterwards they can put it all aside and share a beer together. I've never seen anything like it. It's the one thing that truly separates it from any other sport or organization or anything along that line that currently exists in America when it comes to club sports today.
I agree to an extent. I think specifically like making friendships as an adult when you're not in school is hard.
Yes.
It is so hard. And it's so awkward. You can't just be like a kindergartner going up to someone like, I like your bracelet. Can we be friends? And they're like, okay, freak. But like when you join
You can't
Some rough kindergartners. Jesus.
but when you join a team, it's like automatic, friendship because you have to be like your well-being is on the line on the pitch for 80 minutes. Like I've had my life saved by some girls before on the pitch, and then you're instantly so close. And I think a lot of that does have to do with the fact that rugby is kind of a rare thing to hear someone say they do. So immediately right away, like when Greg and I first started dating, when we first started talking, it was like one moment he didn't even know I played rugby, and then he found out, and they were just like, oh fuck yeah, like we're homies now, like, you know, right away. And so when you say that rugby's going to take over football, it kind of makes me sad because then it's not as special anymore. But
you like the exclusivity of it a bit?
Yeah.
I think
when that happens, I think that the community aspect of rugby will still be there as well. Like, as much as it is becoming, we're having a conversation. That's how it works. You talk, maybe I have something to say. I interject. I am currently interjecting. But no, it's true. Like, even when there is even now that there is professional rugby, that doesn't mean that everyone's going to be playing in it. So this aspect of club rugby isn't necessarily just going to go away. What are you saying over there? You whispered something to him. I'm telling you, just plop it all down in this one.
I need you to stop making sound effects.
Do you have any buttons?
No, I don't have any fucking buttons, Greg.
Like a toilet flush?
What was the name of the guy who did the sound effects in the Police Academy movies?
Oh, Michael Winslow.
Yes. Do your Michael Winslow impression.
Don't know who that is.
Greg doesn't get impressions, all right?
No.
He doesn't earn it.
Sorry.
So,
Greg doesn't know movies.
I second that motion.
yeah, it's not a motion, it's an opinion. Anyway, so how long after you guys started, because since it sounded like both you guys' first experience with rugby was actually like kind of going onto a field and doing it, how long after you guys were in the world of rugby as players did you kind of get interested in it as spectators and fans? Because when we came over, Greg was watching a rugby match. Like, how many games do you guys watch in a season? How active are you guys as spectators now?
It's kind of like soccer. If you know anyone that's like a big soccer fan, a lot of the games do tend to be on at 9 a.m. on a Saturday morning. So it's real good that like you can wake up and watch it. It's only been more recently that we've been putting on a game when we see it. I just bought ESPN Plus and I didn't really realize how much rugby's on that. So we've been watching it a lot more on that as well.
I can hear the like cord moving in my headphones.
It's because he's doing this.
Yeah, just stop fidgeting. When I first started playing rugby and like we wanted to hang out as a team outside of practice and have team bonding, that we like to call it, a lot, you know, what do you do outside of practice with a bunch of rugby players? You watch rugby. Like, so we would watch it, and my first coach encouraged us to watch it a lot as well because, you know, you're playing a club team. Watching it professional rugby, it's just a different animal altogether. The hits are bigger, the plays are bigger, everything's bigger and greater and grand. And he always encouraged us to watch it just so we could get a sense of like how fast and how hard things move on a professional level. So for me, pretty soon after.
I took a pretty large interest into watching a lot of college rugby when I first started playing. Because as I went through my college career, and I stopped playing like a little after my sophomore, or like a little bit into my spring semester sophomore year is when I stopped playing. Although I was still involved with the club, we were growing at such a rate to the point where my college team was breaking the top 20. And, you know, there's going to be some people say top 20 and they're like, oh, we're national champions. And in college rugby, it's not as organized as something like NCAA sports, like college basketball, but there is definitely a true top 20. So when I'm saying top 20, I'm not saying like we're top 20 of like the D3 schools, like a Montclair State. No, we're top 20 fitting in there with Life University and the Penn State of the world and the Wheeling Jesuits of the world and the Armies of the world and teams like that. So I really, when I could, and I found it online, would definitely try to watch as much college rugby as possible.
So what I took out of that was Montclair State sucks. That's what I got. Fuck Montclair.
No, that's not right.
Greg's putting all of Montclair on alert right now. Fight on sight.
There's one guy who listens to this in all of Montclair who's just like, What the fuck?
Keep your eyes peeled for a big-eared 6'6" dude who wears strictly Iona College apparel because he's coming to fight.
No, I'm not.
That's just to throw you off. He's definitely coming.
So if you were this is primarily typically a relatively analytic show where we try to spend every Thursday where we talk about numbers and we try to interject numbers where we can. If you were like a rugby analyst, is there any number that you think would really be relevant? Speed for certain players, or scoring for a team's offense, or is there a defensive metric? If you were an analyst of the sport, is there anything in particular you would care about?
I'm going to turn this one over to Caroline first as I think about it a little bit longer.
Thanks for the update, Greg.
Translation, Greg does not know. You know what? I don't think I could properly answer that either. I know on a personal level, when it comes to like me and my teammates, we all keep a running number of just like how many tries we've had specifically as forwards, because backs score a lot of tries because they're passing the ball like really quick, a lot of hands, a lot of speed, a lot of breakaways. And when you're a forward, you help them get there, but you don't actually always get the glory. So I've had like 2 tries in my entire rugby career per se.
Have they been amazing?
In my head, I looked around, I was like, did anyone else just see that? And they're like,
You
yeah.
just shouted so much. I'm going to turn you down now.
For the record, one of those tries, I was refereeing that game. If that's what you're referring to, one of the, is that one of the
You
two?
basically winked while saying that.
What? Did I wink?
No, but you basically did. Oh god, that's awful. But like, do you guys keep track of like it's tough to say even hits is like as like a stat because I feel like there's nothing but hits in rugby. But like, is there anything else you guys like keep track of as a team in particular?
I don't know. I think that it's really easy in rugby to get in the midst of the game, just like kind of go into an oh shit mentality and do a lot of big hits, a lot of forward punches just to get the ball forward. But when you get like really nice rugby going, really nice organized, you know, a clean punch and then out to the back and running, like I think the things that people pay attention to, even though like the big hits are dramatic and they like look good and, you know, really clean breakaways are things people talk about forever. Like really organized. Greg and I will be watching professional rugby and we'll just like watch a sequence of going back across the field, you know, and then they make a clean break and and it's really organized, and just we'll look at each other and be like, that was pretty rugby. Like that was beautiful, so well done, clean. So I think like people really value good hands. Like really good, a good like 2-minute streak of just hands across the pitch, hands across the pitch. And when you can do that over and over again, like that's impressive.
Possession of the ball is incredibly important in the sport.
You mean like time of possession?
Yeah, it's if you can hold on to the ball and you can really control what you're doing when you're on offense, that can really be a game changer when it comes to a match.
So you're saying if you do really well on offense,
Yeah.
you're more likely to win the game?
You know, there's a quote out there, and it's no, I don't know where I was going with that. That one you can cut.
Greg is trying to do this while also watching a college basketball game he bet $3 on.
To win 4.
Greg is either shouting into the mic while holding it against his lips or speaking very quietly while holding it against his chest.
Okay.
So, Greg, give the mic to your girlfriend.
Another statistic. I'll try. Another statistic in rugby that's really important, in my opinion, is tackle percentage completion. So there's actually a way to make a tackle without completing the tackle. So if you go to wrap up, and let's say you don't necessarily end up going to the ground with the ball carrier, but the ball carrier goes to the ground and you cause them to go to the ground, he can get right back up and keep running. So you technically didn't complete that tackle. When you when you're the tackler and you tackle the ball carrier to the ground and you go to ground with him, that's a completed tackle. And there's more that happens after that gives the defensive side more of a chance to cause the turnover and regain possession of the ball.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Corwin, do you have any questions?
Yeah, sure. So just because we were watching it earlier, this is something I came up with. I have no idea how the seasons or like the setup for international rugby works. Can you just explain it?
So there's a lot of different rugby happening at once. It's not like the NBA where like you have just your winter season and then maybe you have like a summer off season, or maybe sometimes the Olympics are going on in the summer. The way rugby's set up is much different. First of all, let's start with the fact that there are technically two different types of games when it comes to rugby. So there's rugby sevens and there's 15s, and there's a different style of play for each of them. For sevens, there's actually a whole international circuit that happens, and that's just recently started, and they go city to city across the globe, from Las Vegas.
Across the globe?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, from Las Vegas to across the boat.
So like,
I love how much that just sent Greg's mind in like a pretzel. Just like tied him up completely.
I didn't get it. But then it's the same series will end up in Hong Kong. It'll end up in Russia. It'll end up in Canada. It goes all over the place. So that's something that just started. Where at the same time, there's the Premier League that's going on right now. And then every 4 years there's the Rugby World Cup, and that happens. That's actually taking place this summer in Tokyo. Tokyo or Hong Kong? I think it's Tokyo. I'm almost positive it's Tokyo, like 99%. Yeah, big fans. Caroline, what do you have to say?
Thank you. I'm just gonna hold the mic from now on, because the way that you're like you can't imperceptibly moving it is like making my ear go insane.
Just leave it all in, Josh.
Club level, on a club level, we do a fall and spring season that are, as Greg was saying, are 15s, so 15 players on each side for 80 minutes, and then during the summer, we do sevens, which is 7 players. 14-minute games. So a lot more running around, but for a shorter period of time.
That must be a sprint. Jesus.
A lot of running. But that's why during the summer, games are only 14 minutes, because if it was like a regular length rugby game, you'd die.
Oh, just from sheer sweat and heat exhaustion?
Oh, yeah. Like when we do 7 tournaments, like Greg was talking about the Harrisburg game where we all like camped out on the pitch afterwards. You do several sevens games throughout the day with like little breaks in between. At the end of just drenched.
Shout out to Harrisburg Rugby. That tournament is awesome.
It is awesome. That's
You can tell when Greg holds the mic
I know.
because he's just all sound.
Greg, I'm just gonna hold it, okay?
I got excited.
I know.
You know, big guy.
You got
Put
it.
the headphones on.
I know. Yes. You know what? You would probably benefit from them more than I would.
Yeah, because I'm no screamer.
And just to look in on the personal life of Greg and Caroline.
Oh, that's awkward.
Yeah. This is going out and being published.
But yeah, there's pretty much a one type of rugby or another going on at any point during the calendar of the year.
Okay. Sorry, that was not a transition from me. If you guys were made like the presidents of Major League Rugby, what would be, as you both devilishly smile, how would you guys try your best to sell the sport on a more national scale? How would you try to gain interest? Greg, our marketing expert.
Oh, that's right. I'm not allowed to hold it. Shout out to...
Your mom?
Shout
out
out to Rugby United New York, because what I think they've been doing with their marketing is absolutely fantastic with the way they're trying to attract new people to the game. Because let's face it, like people will definitely be a little timid to watch it for the sake that they're not going to know exactly what's going on during the game. But I've been seeing them doing advertising in the New York subways that basically says, get a new sport. Like, come do this. This is something you've probably never thought about doing before, but come check this out. Like, just come watch it. So I think that route is the smartest route for them to be going down right now when it comes to trying to make this as popular as possible.
And what route is that? Just telling people, come watch it?
So basically, it's the rugby equivalent of just do it.
Yeah, it's more of like just the fact that you guys suck. The message, the message that they're messaging that they're trying to get through with their marketing is slowly come see something new, do something new,
Expand your horizon.
Exactly.
Yeah. Caroline, what would you do as the president of Major League Rugby to garner interest?
This sounds so simplistic, but I mean, you guys were watching rugby before, and from people. Oh God, Craig, just keep
going.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
When I talk to people who like come to me and tell me they watched rugby for the first time because they know I play, they're like, "Hey, blah blah blah." One of the first things they always say is, "You don't realize until you see in person how big these guys are. They're just big." Like I said, on a club level, each like body type has a different. On a professional level, they all have to be ready to do everything. So they're all jacked, really strong, really fast, can like lift each other up in the air and also jump in the air. They do everything. So I think just like, I don't want to objectify, but like it's almost like on a gladiator level. Just like come watch this sheer ability of these humans. The athleticism is out of control. So I think if they really focused on like the profiles of some of these athletes, because they're just really impressive athletes, and I don't think that there's another sport out there that requires like that amount of physicality. So
no, I think that's a good point. I think most sports rely a lot in their selling be based upon the players. You know, I mean, if you ask people. Like, I know people who are not baseball fans who know, like, you know, who Alex Rodriguez is, even though he's not in the game anymore, or Derek Jeter, or Nolan Arenado has been in the news a lot, Bryce Harper's been in the news a lot. So, like, people know those names. So that's actually a really good point.
There's a reason these big sports, I want to say companies, I can't think of the right word, leagues center all of their attention around a core group of players. It's how you build identification and build a brand identity and get people to look up to these players and want to follow them into the sport.
Especially if they're as physically gifted Adonises as the rugby playing population is.
Jason Momoa is like so hot right now. Basically, rugby is just
poppin'.
like all Jason Momoa. It's like that's all it is. So I mean, it has.
He went to a Vancouver Canucks game, and that was like the highlight of hockey's week.
Was him being there?
Was him just being at a Canucks game wearing a jersey.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
I like how the entire like national identity of New Zealand is just Jason Momoa, rugby,
Flight of the Conchords,
Flight of the Conchords, and that one really good director that nobody can pronounce his name.
Wait a minute.
Peter Jackson.
Wait. Wait, step backwards. Hold on, step backwards. Rugby and Flight of the Conchords? What's that about? Seriously.
Guys,
You're talking about New
Greg's
Zealand.
watching TV and has no idea what's going on.
Yeah, Greg just lost $3.
I didn't know Flight of the Conchords came from New Zealand. I didn't know. I really.
You've
didn't.
never watched the show.
No, I listened. I listened to like some of the skits and some of the songs. I watched like maybe one episode, but I was very unaware that they were from New Zealand.
Dude, the band's manager is like works at the New Zealand consulate's office.
I didn't know that. I didn't watch.
Because you don't watch. We're moving on. This isn't a Flight of the Conchords show.
Can be.
No, it's not. It's Can Be Juicing the Numbers, a Flight of the Conchords fan show.
Actually, I do want to throw one other thing down in this little pipeline that we're talking about.
Go ahead, buddy. Throw it down my pipeline.
I think it's great that Bill Belichick. I love sex jokes.
Dude, just keep talking.
I love. Shout out to Bill Belichick.
He does not need your shout out.
No. For allowing Nate Ebner to play on the USA Sevens national team when they were in the Olympics. I think that's awesome that he allowed him to go back to a sport that he used to play when he was in college, and compete on such a high level. And I think that was a great thing for the sport.
I'll allow that shout out.
Yeah, actually, that is one thing.
Are we big not Patriots fans?
No,
I love me
we're
some
just
Robert
big- we're
Kraft
just-
and back massages.
We're just we're just big shitters on the NFL. Although I will give them credit, they are very good about allowing their athletes to play two sports, as they did with like Bo Jackson back in the day. And who was that guy that competed on the U.S. men's team in the Olympics? The runner. You know who I'm talking about?
No.
I think like as a wide receiver, somebody competed in the Olympics, or at least went to the Olympic trials for.
Marquise Goodwin.
Yes. The NFL is really good about letting their players do multiple things, whereas the NHL is not.
Let's not talk about that.
Wait, the
Yeah.
NHL? Really?
Yeah, they wouldn't let their skaters go compete in the Olympics.
Oh, I remember
Yeah.
that. But I thought that was something more down the lines of the fact that they were professionals and they wanted "quote-unquote" amateur athletes to be in the Olympics.
No. Do you remember the Dream Team of the '90s with an NBA?
Yeah.
And, you know,
Yeah.
yeah. So we're gonna move on. So I also want to take this opportunity to talk with both of you, but mostly Caroline, about women playing sports and women being involved in sports. So Caroline, you also mentioned, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, that you got something of a new position at your rugby league office kind of deal?
Yeah. So the way that our club works is that we do have a board, because we all elect to do this in our spare time, and we do have to keep it running. So we have like different officers for the board, and I did get elected women's rep, which basically means, because Lehigh Valley Hooligans is... Thank you. Lehigh Valley Hooligans is we have a men's team and a women's team, and are developing a youth team right now. So they need a representative for the women's team at the board meetings to keep in mind the interests of the women, because we tend to get overlooked in the large scheme of the organization. I'm like eating it.
You're supposed to.
That's
I'd
essential.
also like to point out that there is now a rugby game on, and I'm now the only person not staring at the TV, as everyone else in this room is fixated on the rugby match.
But okay, I'll bring it back. Yeah, I did get elected women's rep because we have a large men's team and a not so large women's team. So yeah, we need to keep.
So
the
I know
interest
you
in
were
mind.
touching on how you've been growing or selling the game to women, via body positivity. What other things do you try to bring up when you're recruiting women to play the game?
So I've actually, my new venture is I'm on Bumble right now recruiting. Some of my teammates are on Tinder, specifically recruiting, and on Tinder, like bringing their like lesbian dates to practice. Wait, no. Can you let me finish
We're
talking?
dating. You need to get some clarification on
We
Bumble.
already established that we're
It's a
dating.
business
Can you-
Bumble account.
No, it's a
It's
friend.
not
Or
a
friends, I should say.
Bumble
Sorry.
BFF. Yes. Okay.
I did not know people actually use those.
Yeah.
Women looking for activities.
But
Do you guys search for people on Craigslist?
oh god, no.
Missed connections.
But we are trying to get in touch with more of our... Okay, let's be honest. Gay women love rugby. They love it a lot. We're going to try to... We just talked about like some of our fundraising efforts with the upcoming season. We're going to be part of Pride Night at the Iron Pigs.
Oh, that's awesome. When's that?
I
is
have
it just
to
like down the
I have to
road?
check. It's sometime, I think, early May. But we have a lot of different like vendors at Pride Night every year. I went last year. They have like the LGBTQ youth center there, so we're gonna try to get in touch with our more queer side. We are like the Lehigh Valley Hooligans are one of the straightest teams in the league, and it shows in our numbers. Like, because all the other teams are like full of beautiful gay women, and I'm jealous. So
So you're jealous of other beautiful gay women,
yes.
and you're openly saying that in front of your boyfriend?
Oh, he knows I'm queer. It's fine. He's over it.
He is so locked into rugby. He did not even acknowledge that.
No,
statement.
Greg has headphones on, so now he's treating this as just a radio show that he's just listening to. That's where he's at now.
He's listening to the podcast live.
Yeah, this is just a live show for Greg.
This is not my segment. Thank you.
All right.
You can still participate.
Yeah.
I honestly, I'm not so surprised by that. I think I think most sports in general, women's leagues are dominated by gay players. You hear this in the NBA all the time. I've been hearing it recently with the NWHL, softball as well. I think it's just because of representation. I think that there's a lot of gay women who are very comfortable being out and playing their sports, and other gay women see that and they go, I can play that sport too. And that's why I kind of think it's good. It's good to grow the sport in any respect, but to also have women of all different kinds playing the sport, because then it gets them to see that that's for them too.
Yeah.
There's been bigger pushes from it in the men's leagues, because in the exact polar opposite, men's leagues tend to be dominated by straight men, and I that's why they've been, in my estimation, trying to push harder for Pride nights of some kinds. The Yankees are having their first one this season. The NHL does a great job with it every season, try to get more people of the LGBTQ community to come out, but I think a lot of it's representation.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think are some of your the things you've gained the most from being someone who has played sports as a woman?
I think a lot of it, like specifically when you're playing rugby, there's just a certain level of confidence you have to have at all times, because even if you're faking it, because you can't be scared on the pitch, and I think that translates to a lot of aspects of my life. A lot of times at work, like, it'll come up, like, I'm in a meeting, like, they're like, oh, for reference, I work at an office that's all, like, 40-year-old men and older, so I'm a little fish out of water there, but, like, we'll be in a board meeting, and they'll have some blue language going on. They'll be like, oh, watch yourself, Caroline's over there, and then one of my bosses will be like, fuck, she plays rugby, like, she doesn't care. So I almost get, like, dude points sometimes, which sucks. Like, it shouldn't be like that, but I get an advantage sometimes just for, like, seeming more aggressive or more masculine in a way, and
I don't think it's fair, because I've seen you when you've gone out. I mean, you put on makeup, you put on nice clothes.
I am the two polar opposites. I either, like, I look like a man, or I, like, spent way too much time on myself. I can't do, like, in between at all. But I think. And back to, like, the adult friendship part, like, when I first joined the team, I didn't know anyone, and you had to get used to it real quick. So I think that when you go into, like, a room full of strangers, being part of a team where you meet strangers all the time, it gets easier to just be like, oh, hey, okay, start a conversation or, like, initiate something, because you're forced to communicate all the time. You can't be quiet on the pitch. You're constantly screaming your head off, so now you can't shut me up.
Though we've tried.
Oh, we have.
How do you feel as though it's affected your like activity? Obviously, your activity level is higher because you play a sport, but, like, keeping track of things like your diet and going to the gym or whatever. Like, has it been something of a more motivational factor? Like, I've been exhausted recently, I gotta now be focusing on my cardio, or my legs feel like jello, I gotta go now do more leg presses. Have you been noticing in that respect of your life as well?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've always been, well, not always, but, like, for the past few years, I've been, like, a really active person as far as just, like, weightlifting in the gym, whatever. I've always been a chubby kid, so, like, I've been painfully aware of my diet at all times.
I can relate to this very
yes. People are like, oh, I just, like, eat whatever and never gain weight. I'm like, fuck off.
That's my brother, and it drives me insane.
Not anymore. But
is that a fat joke?
She calls me fat.
It's okay. So does my girlfriend.
I do not call you.
Just
do
kidding.
not call you fat.
For those at home, Corwin's incredibly skinny. Like,
yeah, Corwin is 6'8" and 215 pounds. He barely registers as a human being.
I genuinely hope our listeners would know when I'm joking. Otherwise, this is probably a horrible podcast to listen to.
Dude, I can really tell when you're joking. I've known you for like half a decade.
Fuck.
But yeah, it's nice to now have, like, something to work towards. Like, I'm in the gym not because, like, I want to look cute. It's like I'm like, oh, I can't wait to go back. I just said the other day, I was like, I can't wait to go back to practice, because indoor practices are starting soon. So I was like, I can't wait to see, like, how much time in the gym, like, how that's going to translate on the pitch. Like, not to brag, but I did get voted women's best player last year.
No, Greg, you can't
I
clap for your
got
girlfriend's...
asked to be on this podcast. You can't
You can't clap for your girlfriend's previous achievements and then mock her new ones.
But I just,
Pick a lane.
I feel like this pressure to like kind of uphold a performance on the pitch, and it's exciting. It's exciting to be like feel competitive at 26 years old.
I was gonna say something, but the time for it had passed, so I kind of gave up.
Well,
You do this to me all the
say
time.
Now you gotta say it.
No, because it was like a joke that was like in the moment, and now if I even say it out of context, it's gonna just sound awful, and I just can't do
I
that.
want to hear it.
No, you get nothing. You get nothing, and you'll like
The
it.
listeners at home want to hear it.
Greg, we all know the listeners are at home. This is a podcast. All the listeners are at home.
Also, they don't actually exist.
No, we have listeners. They lick my balls. You can't keep saying this. They're real. They're out
Believe
there.
in yourself. Come on.
Let's get to the numbers.
No, we're moving on. So, how would you on like if you were in charge of some shadow government group that runs all of women's sports in the world? How would you try to grow? Like how would you market sports to women? How would you convince more women to be like, find a sport you love, even if it's not rugby, if it's softball or basketball or hockey or field hockey or whatever? How would you convince more women to go out and join some kind of sporting community?
AKA, what's your opinion on Title IX?
So you're saying on a playing level, not a spectating level,
Yeah, no, actually getting involved, because I know plenty of women who watch sports. You know,
like
and
women's sports.
No, we'll watch men's sports.
Yeah.
Although, actually, I don't know most people who. I don't know really anyone who follows women's sports. on
Yeah,
the national
exactly.
level. That's a different conversation we
Yeah.
can get to in a second. But like, as a player, you know, how would you convince more women to actually go out and there and be involved as a player?
The thing I hear a lot when I tell people that they should play rugby, which I tell people constantly that they should play rugby. I'm recruiting 24/7. I'm gonna do that this whole time. All right, right up on my mouth.
Just keep going.
A lot of people think like right away rugby, their idea of it, or any sport in general, like I can't do this. Like I'm not athletic. I'm not thin enough. I'm not big enough. I'm not tall enough. Like I'm not fast enough. I wish people could just see like the sheer diversity of women who play club sports as adults. Like we have emergency room nurses on our team. Like we have military personnel.
Probably a good thing.
Yeah, no, seriously. I've had we once had one nurse on our team like hook up a men's player like in her car to an IV and put it over like the coat hanger in the car.
Oh my god.
Yeah. But it just, you know, I feel bad. I'm like, I can't make it to practice. I have X, Y, and Z going on. And like one of my teammates like was working like 12-hour shift and like got to practice. I was like, oh crap. I feel terrible. But just like anyone could do it. Anyone really. And you don't know what you're capable of until you get on the field or whatever on the court. And you have all these people depending on you. Like once you pull off that really great move and like you first get that little spark of confidence, the world opens up with sports. You're like, oh, I can actually be good at something. And being good at stuff feels good. Go be good at things. You don't know what you're good at.
Well,
So,
yeah, the NHL's motto is for especially when it's doing Pride nights is hockey is for everyone.
Yeah.
Because they really think and hope that everyone does it.
Yeah.
That's how they think the sport should be grown too, and they've done a really good job with that.
Yeah, I think even for the longest time, rugby was the first sport I really did, and it was freshman year of college. I just thought, you know, I was like this slow kid. Like I just thought it was like, I don't do sports. That's not my thing. Automatically assumed I will never do sports. And then I did the sport, and hey, guess what? I love doing this sport. Now I'm in the gym all the time, and now I'm like always talking about fitness, and I'm like, I was in love with it this whole time, and I had no fucking clue. So just like go out and fall in love with something. You have no idea. So I don't know. That's a little generic, but it's nice to have a little bit of passion in your life outside of your job or your relationship or whatever, even if it's stupid and no one's watching. Like it just feels good to like be good at something.
Well, no, I'm with you entirely. As Corwin would say, there's no one listening to this, but but we love doing it. No, that's not true. There's someone out there.
But I appreciate the reference.
Yeah, go fuck yourself.
We listened to it. We just said we listened to it this morning.
It took Greg at least 3 minutes to figure out what the name of this podcast was.
I'm also pretty sure he'll listen to it because I'm pretty sure I'm the one who subscribed to it on your phone.
Well, I do want to say we have a special guest.
Oh, no. All
Her
right.
name is Monkey. Monkey, say hi to the people.
Greg's currently holding a cat.
Oh,
she said hi.
Hey, monks.
Put her down.
Good girl.
Okay.
Oh, hi.
You knew it was a bad idea, like getting someone who loves attention as much as Greg does on this show.
I'm having a good time.
Yeah, can we do this more often?
If you have more things to say about things, Greg, learn some analytics, and then come on the show.
All right, let's pick something. What do we want to? When I come
No,
up,
not right now.
No,
Greg.
seriously,
This can
let's
be
do
done
it.
in a minute. Like, let's wrap things up first.
we're almost done.
Almost,
I'm just
man.
getting started.
You've been zoned out this whole time. I hope you weren't just getting started.
So, Caroline, as the could you give me the name of the title again for your position with your rugby league again?
Oh, women's representative.
Yeah.
With
So
her
being,
team, not her league.
I thought it was okay.
It's with my team within the league. Whatever.
Yeah, Greg, shut the fuck up. Anyway, what are some of your long-term goals in that position?
Well, for women's rep, you kind of oversee a lot of things. Like we have specific committees, like recruiting committee, like fundraising committee, and everyone else has their own jobs. But like as women's rep, it's just kind of your job to do whatever you can that everyone succeeds. So like I said several times, I'm recruiting all the time. We're running really lean. I would just love to see our team have the numbers that we did back in like our heyday, where we had like subs on the sidelines at all times, and we like actually had the numbers to sit out if you were injured, and now people are like limping on the field because it's a little rough. But other than that, I would just love to like have spectators at our games, like specifically in Bethlehem where we do practice. There is a lot going on. Like you have Iron Pigs out in Allentown, and you have a lot to do, and you have the sands right there. But like, I would love to see people just enjoy rugby on a spectator level. Like our games, specifically when we have double headers between the men and the women, usually like the women will play first and then we'll be done, and then we'll watch the men play like while we're drinking on the sidelines. And it's just I would love to see like people be able to join that socially. We do have a lot of goals to just be like involved in the community. Like I said, we're trying to develop a youth team. I'd love to see kids get into rugby. Like Greg said, he had a friend who like played all throughout his childhood and in high school, and we want to start that around here. That no one plays rugby in elementary or high school around here. I feel like that's mostly like a Colorado kind of thing, and I would love to see people do that specifically on the East Coast. So if we can do that in our little corner of Bethlehem and have kids there and have families there, that would be really great.
Greg, are you here still?
I'm still here.
Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities for there to be these youth programs, and I think the one thing that I want to emphasize, these two, listen, hold on, I'm going to take control of this podcast for a second. Every time I've been going to say something, Josh and Corwin take the mic slowly away from both of their faces, turn to each other, and just start cracking up. I would love for you to explain and go.
Because you started to answer, but you leaned back and we're talking while looking at the game, and then you started speaking slowly while you were thinking of what you were going to say.
Also, instead of saying for there to be, you just said for to be.
We'll have to go back to the tape on that one to Josh, make sure you edit that in so we get the replay of me saying
anything in. I just
No, but in all seriousness though, the one thing that I think is so important for everybody to understand about rugby and why it's such a different culture than any other sport is that like from me, I'm a referee. I see it all when it comes to the discipline of these kids and the people who are playing. There is so much respect for not only the team you're competing against, but for the referees who are on the field that you don't see in any other sport. These guys who play rugby on a professional level would never dare to go up to a referee to start badgering in his face like a soccer player would, because the second a rugby player would do that to a rugby referee, he would probably be getting red carded. It is that serious when it comes to discipline, and I think it really shapes some of these young men and young women at a really early stage to really be the best kind of person that they can be when they get older.
What's it like having a rugby player as a girlfriend?
Hot.
You hear that, ladies?
No, it's
Go
fun.
play rugby.
It's fun. Like we get
Men will love you.
And if you play soccer instead, Greg will think you're a little bitch.
It's fun having a girlfriend that's into rugby in that place, because we're able to go to games together. I've refereed some of her games before. We've gone to professional games before. I know Caroline has put some interest into getting her refereeing certification too. So that's something that we've talked about and where she can do that next. So it's really, like I said, we go to tournaments together. I'm refereeing at a tournament. She's playing at a tournament. And then I get to see my little sunshine. Oh, she's blushing. I win.
What do you mean you win?
Oh god.
Just the game I just created.
Oh jeez.
I don't think you won there, bud. But for my final question to you, Caroline, where would your ultimate goal for, say, your rugby league, leaving aside the more national rugby league, is specifically with the women's league, in like where would you ideally have it be in 10 years with subs, with spectators, or maybe even move to larger fields that could accommodate more spectators? Where would you like to see it?
Yeah, that hit home. Better pitch, honestly. I think a lot of it has to do with we have to get involved in the community on a youth level, on a fundraising level, whatever, because we need to be appreciated more. I would love to see the community appreciate us more, see what we have to offer socially, as Greg was saying, youth development-wise. Right now it's rough. We share a pitch. Well, we don't share the pitch, but we're right next to Bethlehem Steel Youth Football. So we have to share bathroom facilities, we have to share storage facilities, and it's really hard to like make newbies want to come out to practice when you have to like pay $20 for to chip in to rent like indoor practice venue, and you have to show up to the pitch 20 minutes early to white line everything because no one will do it for you. It's nice to like have your hard work come out and produce something, but it would be nice also for players to be able to walk on the pitch and it be ready for them. And I think in 10 years, Lehigh Valley Hooligans specifically, I'd love to see them on the level, and you can't really appreciate this unless you know the league, but I'd love to see them on the level as Northeast Irish in Philadelphia. They get respect. Their name is known. We've had players leave our team to go play for Northeast Irish because...
Shout out Kelsey!
JK, we love Kelsey. I would love to see girls leave the Hooligans and then go up and play on a higher level. Like, I'd love to see that be a route. Not even for girls specifically, but I'd love for us to feed into something bigger. Right now, Lehigh Valley Hooligans, no one knows. Like... for people,
I know.
Yeah, you know. But even for people in like the rugby scene, I hate to say rugby scene, but like,
I like how you also swiveled your head when you said it.
Yeah, it's just so you know, like I'm hip. But in the rugby scene, they don't know Lehigh Valley Hooligans, and I'd love for someone to say, yeah, we're playing the Hooligans this weekend, and be like, fuck, good luck.
I like that. I like that a lot.
My one last comment when it comes to how people really care about growing this community of rugby. We're sitting here currently watching the World Series of Sevens that we were talking about earlier in the show, and they're currently in the final matches of the weekend. So it's so each of the final titles has its own name. Like there's a plate final, there's a cup final, and basically it's like first place, third place, fifth place with just some fancy names. But so what I'm trying to get at though is that USA's playing in the first place game at the end of the day, and they just had the first of last 4 games on. They care so much as players to grow the game that even though you have such a big game on the line in about an hour and a half, 2 hours, someone like Perry Baker, who's one of the best rugby players one of the fastest rugby players to play sevens, he's willing to put his time aside to go and talk about what he's done in his career to advance himself, but not only that, to grow the game and to talk about where rugby's going. And I just think that's something you would never see in any other sport. Ever.
Right on. Corwin, do you have any final questions?
Yeah, just so if anyone who may in fact be listening wants to go and watch a rugby match and see for themselves, what is the best match you've seen in recent years?
I mean, we've seen some fun games before where we've seen some of those premiership games. They do, every once in a while, they'll do a game down in Philly. We've seen USA play Ireland before over at Red Bull Stadium in Newark. That was an awesome time, great experience. But I'll say one of my finest moments, and you know what? I don't know how you do this, but if you can find out.
I'm not going to edit anything in. Greg.
No, I don't want you to edit. If you can start doing some like social tags and really start tagging some people on whatever platforms you're posting this on, I want you to tag Madison Hughes, and I really hope he gets a hold of this, and I really hope he remembers what I'm talking about. And he was playing Kutztown in a sevens tournament. It was my freshman year. It was after the freshman year of college, and he was playing in the sevens tournament, the Penn Mutual sevens tournament down in Philly. That's the College 7 Series they do every year. It's a really great event. They do a good job of hosting it. It's an awesome atmosphere. And he was playing Kutztown in pool play. And I remember it so specifically. Dartmouth scored a try as time was expiring to make it 14-12. And they just needed to hit the conversion to end the game in a tie. And Madison Hughes was not set up with the best kick. After he scored the try, he was very off-centered. He was very much to the right. And I just remember the whole place erupting when he nailed it right down the middle of this super difficult kick. It was definitely one of my favorite moments of watching rugby of all time.
I can't take anything you said seriously because Red Bull Stadium is not in Newark.
Yes, it is.
It's in Harrison.
Is it technically Harrison?
Yeah, go fuck yourself. Greg, this invalidates
It's all
our
Newark.
entire
It's all
conversation
Newark.
today.
Everything
Just delete
over there,
the
it's all
episode.
Newark.
Yeah, you don't even deserve to be on the show.
So, folks, it turns out we're not even going to publish this show.
No, actually, we will publish it. It'll just be Caroline just having arguments with nobody the entire time.
No one will know the name Greg Potempa.
Oh, it's all right.
But that's okay. So we're pretty much done. I don't think I have any other questions. If there's anything else you guys want to mention or shout out before we close up shop.
What are we do? What are you going to say?
What even is rugby?
It's a sport.
Just no, you don't get this talk anymore either, Corwin.
What kind of statistics are we doing for our next show? Come on,
We'll get to that
I want to be
later.
there on a Thursday night. I want to be there on a Thursday night.
This show, Greg.
Come on, let's announce it now.
No, Greg, just move. Hand the mic to your girlfriend.
Thank you for having me.
Caroline.
I think if people who are interested in either playing or watching, just look up where your local club is. You'd be so surprised.
Where is your local club located, Caroline? For people in the area who might be
my
listening.
local club is located in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, at Monocacy Park. We practice every Tuesday and Thursday from 6 to 8. But there's also clubs in like Morristown and New York City, everywhere. And just go watch. Just show up. It's free. It's fun. Someone will probably hand you a beer. They won't even know who you are. just dip your toes in. Just do it.
Carolina's now promising free beer at all local rugby events.
I am confident that I can follow up on that promise. I'm very confident.
And if you're interested in refereeing,
You've never heard of the sport, but if you want to referee it.
Go ahead, Greg.
even if you do play and you don't plan on refereeing a whole lot, I think it's super important for everybody to do so they get a good understanding for what exactly a referee is looking for during a match. So if that's something that you're interested in, check out USA Rugby's website. Check out when they have their level 1 officiating class near you, and you should definitely attend one.
Well, all right, guys. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having us.
I'm really sorry for my boyfriend.
See you, tall guy.
Hey, thanks for coming, tall guy.
All right, you can follow us on Twitter at JuicingPod. If you want to look at the show notes for this episode or previous episode, you can find us at juicingthenumbers.wixsite.com/website. If you want to reach us, you can email, you can